and we'll get started right away.
Yeah, sounds good.
We have Nathan. Nathan, if you want to watch just periodically the Facebook Live as well, let us know if anything is.
Yeah, I'm texting my friend to check it out to make sure the audio is good.
Perfect. Sweet. Okay.
This audio to catch.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. And then.
Cool. You got a whole production studio.
Have some comments. Oh yeah, we went for it. All right, welcome.
You would laugh at my setup.
Have a couple of people join in here. Sweet.
All right.
I think right at 1 minute we can get fully started.
Yeah, I have a lamp to my left with no shade. I have a lamp to my right with two bulbs and a shade.
You got the nice light in the background.
Yeah, I had the other one over there. It looked great, but I didn't have enough light.
Yeah.
Hopefully my movements are okay tonight.
Yeah, I think you're good. I think you look great. Well, welcome everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, no, everything is stable so far. So sweet.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming back to our second kind of rebooted live series and our first rebooted Wednesdays with Olympus with Mike and Miko.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
So we're going to we'll give you the schedule for the night. Basically going to spend some time together. We're going to each share our story of kind of how we got into photography up till where we are right now, photo stories that we did in our last live, kind of sharing the fun stories behind them. And then as always, if we have time, we'll do a open Q&A right at the end. But I won't bore you guys too much sharing my story all over again for the people who watched it last time. So I'll just quick give my little 5 minute, so then we can have more time to hear all of Mike's, because he's told me it is a little long, but very interesting. So I'm excited to hear it. So yeah, to start out, starting with photography, I was kind of always interested. And I was first interested in like making movies. I grew up like playing with Legos a ton. And the first time I saw I'm blanking. I don't remember what they're called. What is it? Hey, Brad. The stop motion of, people making like their little Lego characters come to life with stop motion was the first thing that like got me interested of, I can take photos and that turns it into a movie and like all of this thing. So I started using like a DS that could take a photo and turned that into like the first stop motion. And then I remember using little point and shoots, like whatever I had to just kind of try to tell my story with my Lego figures. And that kind of blossomed into then starting photography as a business in middle school, doing mostly portraits, just like families, single portraits, kind of stuff like that. Did that for a little bit, and I enjoyed it at first, but kind of because it felt more like a job to me than a passion, I kind of slowly lost that passion. So I actually stopped doing photography toward the end of middle school for a couple of years, and then picked it back up my junior year of high school, and has now kind of carried it through to doing part of it as a business, part of it as a hobby, now doing it for social media here at the camera shop, being the social media manager, as well as then I'm now starting to begin this career in international missions and using that to document kind of what's happening all over the world through photo. And now I've also transitioned into doing a lot of video work as well. So that's my super quick synopsis of my story.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd love to hear yours, Mike.
Mine's all over the place. So
yeah,
all over the place.
That's fine.
Just so you guys know, I had perfected my lighting and everything, and now I'm back in a hotel on a Mac using the computer. So bear with me as far as the look. So mine goes back a little bit further than yours, Jonathan. No DS here. Back to the days, the olden days. Now, when I was a kid, probably around 10 or so, my dad, who's an avid hunter, got into photography a little bit. He got the itch to shoot. And down the road from us is a mall they built when I was a kid. So there was a Sears there. And I remember going with him to the Sears store, and they had on display a Sears KS Super camera, which is basically like a Ricoh or Pentax. Had a Pentax K mount, aperture priority, interchangeable lens, SLR. And I watched my dad just constantly looking at this, going back. I'd go with him and talking to the sales guy and sort of learning about photography. And then he finally picked up a kit, and then he'd go back. For about a year, he went back. He picked up a macro lens. He picked up a zoom lens, a flash, and he loved it. And he, a hobby amateur photographer, just shooting around. We'd always go on rides on the weekends and stuff, and take pictures and whatever. And a couple of years later, he bought another one for my sister. She didn't use it too much, but so we had two of those. I actually took it in probably junior high school. I took the camera a little bit. I shot. I didn't really know what I was doing that much, but I had fun with it. I understood aperture and things of that nature, but still didn't really know what I was doing. That's about it. I kind of put it away after high school, and I fumbled around with colleges and stuff for a little while. I didn't really have a direction. But when I was ready to finally go back and went to my second college, I went to art school in Florida, and I went for illustration. So I actually went on a whole different path. My path was to, didn't know what. I just thought, hey, I want to work for Disney, or I want to do animation, and so I went in as an illustrator, and I took a minor in photography. Hey, I'm interested in that. I'll take a minor. That'll be fun. Yeah. And I found that I started to really like the electronics of it. Things were changing a little bit. I liked the electronics. It was 95, 96. So Canon Elan, A2E, all these little cameras, they had gadgets. Yeah. And I started researching, and I was more interested in the product, in this whole, this gadget, than I was the actual photography. But I loved being in the studio at school. Loved the studio, loved products, loved shooting people, loved my lighting, and so that was sort of what I wanted to do. I just couldn't really figure it out, but I was, doing my illustration a couple of years. So a couple of years in, I'm working full time at a Home Depot and going to school full time. And, I was really enjoying both, but something had to give. Things were getting a little tougher in school. Had to go get the labs done, all that fun stuff. Well, the photo studios were open till 2 a.m. I can work full time, go get my work done, and I was really enjoying it. And they happened to, my second year in, they made the photography course a major for the first time in the school. Oh, okay. It was always a minor. So 10 of us took it on, 10 of us from all different aspects, fine art, illustration, graphic design, interior design. There was 10 of us that took it on. We were the first to graduate with a degree in photography from the school. So that's sort of where I started and kind of came in. So, after school, I was looking for a job in photography, trying to be an assistant somewhere. Okay. And I came back home to upstate New York. I was in Florida for school, Syracuse area, looking around. And this is 99. So if you remember now, digital is starting to really sort of take hold, but nobody really knows if it's going to take over or not. It's very expensive. Some studios are switching. Some are getting out of business. So there's no jobs. Right. Okay. Everybody's like, man, we're shutting it down. Nobody's buying it anymore. Okay. We can't afford it. We're doing it, whatever. So almost took over a studio back home, which was a studio that did all of our senior pictures and weddings and stuff in the area. And that kind of fell through. And, that's about it, man. How I got into the industry, just quickly on that, was I had sent out a ton of resumes. I actually had a call from Minolta. Okay. And I just gotten back from school, and Minolta called me, and they had an opening in California for a sales support rep, kind of like a tech rep, whatever. No idea what that was at the time. And I said, I just got back from Florida, anything from like Chicago to Maine, but I want to be within driving distance of home and, whatever. Yeah. Turned it down. Okay. Hung up the phone, and I went, oh man, I just blew it. And I said, if anything else comes up, well, that job down the road, I found out, lasted about 90 days, and they wiped them all out. So I would have moved to California and been gone, right? Yeah. So 6 months later, Minolta called me, and they had an opening in New Jersey, New York, Northeast. Ended up being half the country, but that was for a tech rep, and that's how I got into the industry. So it was sort of a sort of a fluke, and but I got brought in from some good people that are still in the industry with other companies,
That's
and that's it. 20 years been here.
20 years. That's so cool. That's
Yeah,
so
so
cool.
that was kind of my entry into it. So just quickly, not to keep going, but my photography wasn't that good. So even out of school, it really wasn't that good. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I was enjoying the shooting, and then I get in the industry as a trainer salesman, not much time to shoot, right?
Right.
So my
Right.
lighting skills sort of go to the wayside a little bit for a while, and then my sales skills come in, my training. So love the product, but haven't shot. Now, once I came in with Olympus, 2015, I really started to shoot more. I went
Yeah.
through a divorce, things like that, so I had a little bit more time to myself. And my photography has improved over the past 5
Yeah.
years. So I always tell my customers, you just have to keep shooting and shooting and shooting, keep practicing, and you will get better. It's a matter of
Absolutely.
seeing. So yeah,
Yeah. I
that's my
mean,
story.
what's that saying? The first 10,000 photos you take are your
Ah,
worst or something like, and
yeah.
that's a cheesy line, but I think that's true. And I mean, I don't even think I might be getting close, but I don't even know if I've taken 10,000 photos yet.
Oh, I could
Like,
tell you, I've taken 10,000 bad ones for sure.
yeah, I
And
mean,
but
exactly. Like,
even looking at, like, if I get in at 16, I've been shooting for 31 years,
right,
something like
right.
that, right? I,
Yeah,
really, the past 6 years is where I've really been pushing myself a little bit.
yeah,
So, it takes time.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So
Hey,
are
Brad.
you still doing, yeah, good to see you, Brad. Good to see you again. So Mike, are you still doing art, or when did you kind of transition from like deciding to
It's kind of
pursue
the
like
opposite now, right?
cameras instead of art? Yeah.
So the interesting thing was my illustration. It was always, very cartoonish, things like that. And the first couple of years of art school, the first year is basically drawing yourself all the time.
Okay.
That's like you're
Okay.
doing self portraits all the time, and
Okay.
mixing paint, mixing colors to know your colors, right? And the second year, I really started to learn what my style was, and
Mm,
it's a very flat, very cartoonish style. I was always trying to be three-dimensional, like it wasn't good enough, and really, it was just trying to be you, right?
right.
And the final project that we did was actually one where I finally got an A. It was finally like, "Hey, Mike, that's
Okay.
you. Keep going,"
Yeah.
And then I quit. And so,
Yeah.
but I love to paint. I love to draw. I don't do it as much because time. So eventually,
That's
someday, I
fair.
would like to paint again and
Cool.
draw again. I did just to finish a self portrait. First time I've painted in 10 years.
Yeah, I
You
think I
know,
saw
so
that somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
really cool.
So, trying to get back into it a little bit, but it takes time.
Okay.
Takes time, but you
Yeah,
never lose
absolutely.
it. You never
Right.
lose it. So
Right. Right. That's super
absolutely,
cool. That's super
yeah.
cool.
It's
Yeah,
different.
so yeah, yeah. So if you wanna, we can transition into kind of sharing some photos for
Yeah,
next
yeah. Sure.
into our photo stories. So I think we each have 3 photos. And I'll let you go first. Do you have a
Sure.
particular one you want to start with?
It doesn't really make a difference. All the
Okay.
photos I chose have a sort of a story behind them. So,
Cool, cool.
and
I'll
they're all
say
they're all
let's
somewhat newer photos within the last 5 years. So,
Cool. I'll say let's just go left to right here then,
sure,
which will break them up a little bit.
yeah.
So tell us about this photo.
So this one is just last June, and this is my older daughter Ashley, and this is one of her senior portraits that I did.
Okay.
Um, Everything has a story,
Yeah.
and what happened this year was obviously COVID hit, right?
Right.
And
Right.
Ashley's a pole vaulter, and obviously she lost her season to get looked at her junior year.
Right.
Um, but this was one of the photos that I absolutely loved out of the set.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of different reasons. One, I was not supposed to do her senior photos.
Okay.
I actually had somebody lined up, one of our photographers actually, and I was planning on taking her to the studio and getting these done. That's what she wanted.
Gotcha.
But with COVID, didn't know what we could do.
Right. Right.
So I happened to grab my kids for a couple of weeks and bring them to Florida. And I said, let me shoot some of your senior pictures and we'll see where the summer goes.
Yeah.
So I did a few shots and then we took some of these. And, this one was trying to get that Sports Illustrated kind of look, right? Where
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
pop with the flash, you have the background with the sunset, right?
Mhm.
But to me, it's just, she was great. She was great through the whole thing. And I love that. And so I just like the way that it turned out. I thought, it brings back, photos bring emotion to me. There's different stories with each one, and they bring you right back to where you were at that time. And my sister's holding a light over here, my brother-in-law's hanging out over here, with my niece, and here's my daughter, and just posing, doing her thing, and I just love the interaction and the whole everything about it. Just reminds me of her. It's just and the fact that I wasn't supposed to do it, and I think she loved the photos. So so that photo kind of makes me happy. It just brings back
that's
that
so
memory.
special. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great photo. She backlit really well. The flash makes it look really nice. Yeah, I really like that photo. That's really cool.
So secondary on that photo is that flash is actually a ProMaster M300 unplugged.
Oh, awesome.
And that's with one of the ProMaster soft boxes.
Yeah.
And I was, again, in Florida during COVID. I got kind of stuck there for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I had hardly any gear with me, no gear for this stuff. So I started calling all my friends in the industry and friends in the company and, hey, can I borrow this lens? Can I borrow this light? Can I borrow something, And everything got shipped to me for a couple weeks. And I was able
That's awesome.
to get this out. So it was kind of fun. I was kind of learning the different lighting and stuff. It was fun.
That's really cool. That's a really cool story behind that.
Teaching my family about reflectors.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love that you're able to do that with your family for your daughter. I think that's really, really awesome.
Thank you.
Well, cool. Sweet. We'll move on to next one here. Oh, yeah.
Man. Oh, that's cool.
So this was kind of going off of, we have ProMaster rugged memory cards. Basically they're little, they're something that we have at the shop that's really special compared to other memory cards because they're fully waterproof, fully weather sealed. Like, I remember plenty of times last summer, Justin would come in and be like, hey, I washed my memory card again, but it's like, it's totally fine. So these things have been out. We've put them in the water. They've been through the washing machine multiple times and just keep coming back. And so it's something super special. And I really wanted with this photo to convey kind of that saying that your camera is only as fast as your memory card. Because that's one of those things that isn't that people don't often think about. Like they'll buy the camera, buy the lens, all of that. Oh, I quick need a memory card. We'll just grab like whatever's cheapest because maybe I'm on a budget, which can be good. But if you're getting one of these really good cameras, like we used a D850, so we used one of the top of the line cameras we have. It was, I think, our best demo we had out at the time, and it was really the biggest camera I had out at the time. So it was like, let's just grab the biggest camera. Even in hindsight, the D850 doesn't take an SD card, but I'm just now thinking about that.
Close enough.
It didn't occur to me at all until right now, but hey, it's fine. So, wanted to convey this big old camera, this super nice, expensive camera, just being held up by this little memory card. So to do that, I set it up, I balanced it, all of that. Totally kidding. There's no way you can, well, someone maybe would be able to. I definitely couldn't. So, we did the trick where you take a photo of the background and then you stick the camera on the tripod. We used one of our Vanguard ones that lets you kind of like swing the whole thing over to its side.
Right.
And I wish I had I don't have the before photo of this. I have the just pre-edited one that I can quick talk about as well. But I don't have the before that has the tripod. But basically, you take a photo of the background, take a photo of what you want, and then you put them into Photoshop, and then you layer them, and you can just erase away the tripod. Like, it looks like magic. It's super nice. So I like the story behind this because it is a setup. One, it's right now our most liked photo on Instagram. So it did really, really well this summer. Somehow I think the Instagram algorithm just kind of took a hold of it and it skyrocketed. So it has double the likes of like our number 2 spot. So it went really well. It was the first time I was able to kind of be like creative with Photoshop, mess around there. Right. Showing like the before, I used radial masks to make the lens really look like it popped and added depth to it, which wasn't something I was doing a ton with. So I did more editing with that. But also the other fun story about this that was something I had to learn. When you do these photos, you want to shoot like 100% in manual. I didn't think to change my white balance or my focus. So when I took the photo, I used autofocus and auto white balance, which means all of the nice background I had to like erase. Yeah, I had to completely redo it, paint it in. Because also, if you want to take one of these photos, don't take your whole setup down until you're done editing, because I got the photos in after I took all the tripods down, cameras, all of that, realized that. And I was like, yep. And I was like, yep. And I was like, well, we're just going to do more Photoshop work. But this was one that was literally done. I just did it in-house with the EM1 III. I forget what lens I used on it. But this was actually our second attempt at this shot as well, which is kind of the fun story behind it. Earlier in the summer, when the Sony ZV-1 came out, that like kind of smaller vlogging camera.
Yeah, right.
We did like a day in the life of like social media coordinator. And so I did like a video with it. I went out with Justin to the Muskegon beach and we took photos and stuff. And we tried to take this photo like at the pier. And it ended up not working. I don't remember what it was. I think maybe our focus was off or something. I forget why it ended up not working. But we had to we spent the time and we had to like scrap the whole project. And then this I literally did right at my desk. And then
like that.
Yeah, just like that. So it was really fun. It was that's a little bit of a long story to it, but this ended up being one of my favorite product shots I've ever done. Because of just the fun story and how we had to get there. And it's just, it's something unique. It's something you normally don't see very often for that. But yeah, moving on. Tell me about this photo.
Just to go back, you brought up a great point though about the cameras, and not to go off the tangent on what we're doing, but you brought up a great point about budgeting when you buy a camera, because we're marketed so much in this industry, and I talk to my customers about this, that not just our industry, actually, it's anything. You buy a car, you buy a dishwasher, everything's marketing now the last, 8-10 years. And so you buy a camera and you're marketed the camera. So we go into a store and we buy the biggest, baddest camera we can afford, but nobody tells us about the lenses or the bag or the battery or the card. And it's like buying a car. You want to buy nice mats, or, and then we go, I got to buy the cheapest mats I can get. I just spent 20 grand on a car,
Yeah.
Same thing with a camera. You buy a camera. Remember, you might want to have that grip that goes on it. You might want to have an extra battery. You might want to have a nice memory card. And when you're spending thousands on a camera, hundreds on a memory card, that's what it costs for a good card to get you the speed you need if you're doing that kind of shooting. Same thing with a lens. If you buy a D850, from Nikon, you want to get a nice lens for that showcases what that sensor can do. You're going to spend a couple of grand on a lens, a 24-70 lens or what have you. So, you really have to budget when you go out, figure out what's in your price range, and there's many different cameras for that. So that's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Well, sweet. So moving on. Tell me about this photo. When you sent this to me,
this makes me laugh, man.
my story to this so far has been, I asked Mike to send me 3 photos for this live, and I get this email with the 3 photos, and this pops up, and there's no context because I haven't heard any of the stories behind these before. And I'd seen the one of your daughter before. And then I think I've seen the other one, but this one I've not seen before. So tell us the story behind this one.
I had started with Olympus. This was actually probably the last Halloween I spent with my kids ever. So that kind of is a secondary story. Yeah. But what I love about this photo, one, is that it's very photojournalistic. It's the 12-40 on the original EM1. So it's got that, 12 millimeter, it's kind of that wide angle, and it shows the apartment. This is my aunt, who now has passed away. This was back in 2015, and she was about 95 years old in this shot. And I had gotten this mask for Halloween, this dog mask. And I walk into her apartment and she's like, I want to try that on. I'm like, yeah, Mary, you're 95 years old. You're not wearing a mask. No, I want to try it on. Right. So I put this mask on her. Meanwhile, she's watching my dog. So I have a Chihuahua, right? So if you look behind her on the table, there's a dog leash, there's milk bones.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It just kind of works with the whole thing. So I just love the way the shot came out. When I edited it, I just sort of took out some of the color. I was in this at the time. I was in this mode of sort of doing that. We go through these different phases in editing, and
Oh
so
yeah, yeah.
mine was to kind of take some of the saturation out of the photo,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it gave it like a photojournalistic kind of a look.
Yeah,
Editorial, I guess. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah,
And but that's the background of the story. It was just this fluke. Like every time I see it, I just laugh because this is my 95-year-old aunt that wanted to try on my mask. I couldn't even breathe on this thing, I could barely breathe. And she put it on and she wore it, and I just thought it was great. It was a great mask. And that's the story. But what I love is that this is photography, right? I mean,
yeah.
It just brings you right back. I remember standing right there, taking that shot. I know the exact camera and lens. My kids were in the house. My ex was in the house. I mean, it just takes you right back,
Yeah.
Now she's gone. My dog's gone. I mean, it's crazy. But
Right.
yeah, what a great time. And so that's the story behind that.
That's so fun. I think that's such a great story. Yeah, that's just a great photo. I love that capture.
That was a great camera, that little EM1, the original. They all are. I mean, the new ones as well. But
Right.
When I started with the company, that was just the ergonomics in that camera were just amazing.
Yeah.
So still have that lens.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, moving on. We'll do this one.
Awesome. That's a nice shot.
So this is what is it? So this was I believe it was last summer. Last summer. This was the first time I went out with an Olympus camera.
Nice.
First time I went out took one of the Olympus cameras for the weekend, because I played around it with one of them, with the EM1 III a little bit. This was the first time I went out with a bigger lens to try to do some birding, because I knew we were going to this park and there were going to be birds. So this little guy I love the story behind this, because one, it was my first time trying birding. And to be fair, this was probably the only decent shot I got of that entire weekend, because, your first time, you're lucky to get something decent.
So it's a totally different type of shooting. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's something I'd never done before. I'd never done any kind of I'd been doing still portraits, almost portraits and landscapes, my entire life. So trying to track birds, all of that, just to get this guy. Story behind him is he had perched. This is right on the edge of the boardwalk, and he'd perched there, and I probably had to follow him for another 100 yards. Of any time I would get close enough to get him this size, to get this close, he would move down to the next one. So I'd followed him. Finally, he stayed. And it was just this perfect shot of he looked at the camera for a split second. So ended up just getting this little kind of head cocked, curious little photo of him.
That's great.
So yeah, and I was happy with it. And I ended up selling a couple little prints of this guy, which I was really happy about, because
it's a great shot.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, because this was the first time I tried birding, and I had no clue what I was doing. I'm
going on 3 years. I still have no clue what I'm doing.
That's fair. But no, yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed. I mean, the EM1 III is fantastic for it. I took I don't remember what lens it is. I think can't you check this way? Yeah, the 12-100 f4. And I mean, that was a great little lens, because I was going out for the weekend, so I was like, I don't know what I want to shoot, so I'll just grab the all-in-one. And it worked really well. It was super nice to have that small of a package to
what is Brad saying? What's that, Brad?
Let's see, what's he saying? That's awesome.
The Olympus cameras, that's really, I'm glad that we've kind of come into our own with those, because really for travel, adventure, birding, that's really where we shine, with that reach and everything. So size, the weatherproofing,
Yeah, it's I was gonna
Good
say
birding
it's
skills. I still have to learn it though.
yeah.
Learn where the birds are, what they are. Get up in the morning,
Yeah.
get up early, bread.
Yeah, figuring out what they are, all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what this guy is. I asked and I don't know if I ever got a good answer. I have no clue what kind of bird that is.
You gotta check on the Merlin app or something. Shows you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. But yeah, no, I think I would agree with you. I think Olympus right now is really unmatched with the weather sealing. Always highly talk about the weather sealing. Because I think you can have that thing. You can have them in a downpour and they're
They're
fine.
still good, yeah.
Yeah, they're still fine. You could run the thing under a faucet and it would be fine.
It's the only thing I had where I trust it.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're through their paces.
No, it's I think crazy weather sealing, and really it's so crazy how small Olympus has been able to get the cameras.
Yeah.
To where you can have this little tiny body that's taking amazing photos that can get you that the reach you can get on the lenses is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It really makes it that perfect travel companion that if you don't want to worry about big lenses, a big camera, all of that, you have this nice little guy that's taking still amazing photos at a
And
little
you
tiny
don't have thousands
body.
of dollars to spend on the lenses. You could still get the pro lenses.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
is an alternative, that's something a lot of people miss.
Right.
That is a great shot, though. I like the colors. I like the composition.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't it looks like I just bumped the saturation a little bit
That's cool.
before because it was pretty dark. But yeah, so moving on, let's take a look at this guy.
Yes, little red-tailed hawk. This isn't really a great shot, but there's a story to it.
Okay.
So, another store in Michigan. We went to Kensington Park to do one of your sister stores.
Okay.
We were doing a photo walk,
Oh,
about a
okay,
year
cool.
ago. And it's my first time going there. I had gone to the park the day before, scoped it out. There was some, some sandhill cranes and stuff, So the next day I go out, I got about 10 or 12 customers. I got a couple people that just kind of joined from the parking lot. It was great.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine from American Birding Association came along just to kind of hang out and call out some birds. Really cool, right?
That's really cool.
Yeah, we go walking. The problem is it was really cold. It was a fall day and really wet and rainy.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those days where
looks like it was raining a little bit.
Yeah, you try not to get sick. It's one of those days. And so we're walking and, the guy's going, yeah, sometimes there's such and such over here and this and that. And there's no birds. I mean, they're around, but they're not coming out. They're yeah. I could see everybody getting frustrated as we're there for about 10, 15 minutes. We're walking towards the woods, nothing, getting wet, muddy. And when you're not shooting, you sort of get antsy, right? It gets boring. You're kind of like, darn it, I want something to happen.
Right.
So meanwhile, I had paid money to have at the end of the walk, the park has their own resident hawk.
Oh.
And they bring them out if you pay. And so everybody can shoot them, do portraits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, at least at the end we get to shoot Ranger, the hawk. We get to shoot Ranger, get some nice headshots, test out your gear. It's great. So I'm looking forward to Ranger. Everybody is, So we get in the woods. It's dark. I mean, it's raining. And all of a sudden we just come up on this hawk right here. Huh. And it's ripping apart a red-tailed squirrel or a red squirrel. It just tearing it apart. And there's all these red squirrels in the woods, going nuts, making noise. Because it just took one of their family members. We were there right at the same time. And we're watching it on this log just eat this. And I got pictures of it eating the squirrel. But they're from behind. We didn't want to disturb it. So there's about 15 of us now at this point. And we're all kind of surrounding it slowly just from the side, just kind of watching behind and the side, taking pictures, but trying to be respectful and watch it and not get in front of it and keeping our distance. So I'm telling you, this is 6400 ISO. It was dark.
Wow.
And it was 11 in the morning. So you're talking rain and cold and in the woods.
Yeah.
So this is bumped up. It's cleaned up with noise reduction.
Yep.
But the idea is that, again, one, I tell my customers, don't worry about noise with your high ISOs. You're going to get some on a 4/3 sensor right now. It's the way the technology stands today. But you can do it. And, if you want to get the shot, sometimes you have to crank it up.
Right.
But also remember that we're photographers and you look
Mhm.
for light. And sometimes
Mhm.
it's just not worth taking the shot. Or sometimes you just take the shot like I did here, because this brings me right back to that exact time. When, this is after he ate the squirrel. He came out and kind of faced us somewhat, you know.
Yeah.
The idea is, when I look at this, I totally remember that whole day, like that whole time going right there, watching this thing in the wild, eating the squirrel. The squirrel's going nuts, the sound. And then we all go to see Ranger after. And like nobody cares.
No one cares because you just saw like a hawk rip
Like
apart.
we just saw the hawk. We don't have the one that's in wild now. We got the one that was wild. That was like,
Yeah,
dude, the squirrel in
you
front
have
of us was
the.
great, you know. But
That's
yeah, we
so
got some
cool.
great shots of Ranger. So, but it was cool to see that, and actually, I think it made the day because it wasn't that active that day.
Right, right.
But this made the day, and so I love this shot. And that day was like one of my best or favorite walks,
Yeah,
just because when you're birding, sometimes just witnessing nature is worth it rather than even taking pictures. Sometimes you
absolutely.
just have to stop and look around and just take it all in, and that's
Yeah.
that's I think what happened this day. So and there was about 15 of us that did the same thing, and we were all talking about it the rest of the day. So it was so that's what this photo is. It just reminds me and brings me back again to that point, that time. So
Yeah.
very
That's
cool.
really, really cool. I mean, I still think that's a great photo. And at
Thanks.
6400 ISO, it
Yeah,
looks good.
6400. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did pro capture at 6400. I did a few
Mm.
things. We had
Yeah.
time. Shot them for about 15 minutes, but it was
Wow. You
wild.
just hung out.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
So, but you can clean it up. You can do it. You're going to have some
Right.
grit, some noise. You know what?
Yeah.
I think that we've been pushed so much on no noise, and that's okay.
Mm.
And that's just the way technology has been. And so we zoom in. We have the laptops now. We have computers. We can zoom in 300% and look at every little thing. But when you print, Jonathan, and you want some grit sometimes, and when you
Right.
print, things bleed a little bit too, and you
Yeah.
don't see a lot of that. So
Right. Right.
it's just we're a society that doesn't print as much. We're a
Yeah.
society that just we view things on a screen that's this big.
Yep.
we, view,
Yep.
we view it this big because we can, and we look at every little thing. And so, it is, it's to each his own sort of when it comes to that. But I personally like having a little bit of something in my images. You know what I mean? So, but I also come from film where
Right. Right.
you could, I mean, it was grainy as all heck.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's fair. That's totally fair. I actually,
Yeah.
this past weekend, I actually shot my first roll of film
Oh, really? What'd you shoot?
ever. I had a, what is it? Minolta X
Yeah.
570.
That's a great little camera. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was super easy to use because you can stick it in aperture priority, and it was fun. I mean, I have no clue what the photos look like yet. We'll see we'll see if anything turns out.
Listen, the other day I had a live comp class, long
Yeah.
exposure, and I love telling people how I used to do long exposure when I was learning in school. And here it is, film, right?
Yeah.
First thing you have is a notebook and a pen in your backpack, because you
Yep.
write down 1 through 24, and every shot you're like, 200 ISO, f8, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Shot 2, because when you get the film back, you have to remember what you shot on each one.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Now everything's right there in our metadata.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
No,
great.
it was actually, I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. So we'll see how they turn out.
Yeah, film is great, man. I picked up a what is it? It's a Yashica mat, little
Okay.
2 lens,
Oh,
and I loaded it up with Fuji Cross film, black and white, and I got an OM1 loaded up with Fuji Cross.
yeah.
Haven't shot one shot out of either of them, but it's ready to go. There,
Yeah.
my refrigerator still has film in it.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. That's really awesome. That's really awesome. All right. So last photo here.
Nice.
So this is one I actually just did. Was a week or two ago, I think. So really the most recent photo that I've done, because I've shot really nothing for myself since I've been home, because I've just been doing lots at the camera shop. But so this was testing out Sigma's new 105 macro for the Sony E mount. And the other like kind of second goal of this was we do, some people know, some people don't, but we do one-on-one classes at the camera shop. So it's normally like you can spend an hour. Right now they're with me after hours, and we can go through, a lot of times it can be from like the very basics of, you just got this camera, you have no clue what all these scary looking buttons are. Here's like, how to use it, all the way to like, here's a very specific kind of photography you want to learn how to do. We can teach you. And so this one was actually a bit of a mix because we had a lady named Brenda came in, and she has a jewelry business. And she just got a new camera. She wanted to learn how to use it. And she ended up doing two one-on-one classes with us. And the first one, we did this thing where we walked through all the different things. So we walked through the exposure triangle. So what ISO means, aperture, shutter speed, all of that, how that affects the light, how it affects all the photo looks, the white balance, all the basics, your camera basics, your kind of camera 101 class.
Right. The bells and whistles.
Yeah, all kind of condensed into like an hour. And this other one, we focused on jewelry photography. So to gear up for that class, I tested some jewelry photography. So borrowed just some ring from my mom that looked fancy. Yeah, and I was like, we'll just do that. And then just set up a nice little studio. And it was a kind of a cool story with product photography, with stuff like that. And something I learned as I really did it is your set looks way bigger than what the actual photo is. Like I had like these fake trees, the gold you see are like these little string lights to add those nice like kind of lights around. And then like some more greenery around here. And then I have this little like pine log that I was sat on. And I can show the before. So we did some natural light on the left side, and then just one of our ProMaster LED boxes on the right side, and then really made it moody in post.
It's a lot better. Nice.
Which I'd love to do a live or something at some point, walking through kind of editing and how like you can get a photo from here to here. But that's a whole different subject, the editing part of it. So I was happy with how I was able to turn out, and it was a fun story to then be able to have this set to then use as for the one-on-one for these jewelry pieces, and kind of going from that, because it was a really interesting one-on-one, because a lot of one-on-ones are the basic, just got a camera, here's how you use it. So it was really fun to do something that that was different, that was going into jewelry photography and product photography and that kind of stuff. So that was super fun to do. So that was kind of one of the ones that caught my eye last when I was looking through photos to go through. But
it's cool too, because you give somebody it's kind of like taking guitar lessons, right? You go to a teacher, and the one teacher is like, well, here's the scale, and dun, 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 whatever, and you go home and you're like, man, this is boring, like I don't want to play guitar anymore. Or you go to one teacher and they're like, here's how you play this Black Sabbath song, and the next thing you're like, yeah, this is exciting. Okay, by the way, check out this scale, or it's within there. So it depends on that teaching style or that training style. And to go from like a crash course one-on-one class to the stuff that she's actually going to do. Right. I think it really brings people around to, well, one, how hard it is, how complicated, but also how simple you can make it. You can ask questions, and you can come back and learn more, and there's a lot more to learn, and there's more you can do, with this. And I think it brings an appreciation when people are willing to learn like this too, to photographers that do this stuff professionally.
Absolutely.
There really is a market and a business that people do this, and you really have to learn if you really want it to come out professional. So I agree with that. I think that's totally great. But as we start to wrap up, we do have time for questions. Sure.
So
Brad?
Brad, if you want to ask any questions, any questions for Mike, for me, Olympus related, kind of whatever, feel free to ask anything.
Go ahead.
And kind of while we wait for some of those to go in, do you have any updates for us with Olympus? Like what's new, anything you can share? Kind of what's exciting you with Olympus kind of recently?
Right. Well, right now I'm going through, we're going through, obviously, January, we have a new corporation. So, but as far as new product, the 140 to, oh my God, the 15400 is finally been introduced. And so that will be coming out the end of January. And that's been a long awaited, pro lens.
Yeah.
Built-in 125 teleconverter. I mean, it'll get you out to 1,000 millimeters, 5.6 handheld.
Wow.
And from there, you can add other teleconverters and stuff.
Yeah.
But, and a lot of people don't understand the lens. It is a pro lens that is a specific tool that we've already sold tons. It is very expensive. But comparatively to the other brands that are out there, we're the third company to make a lens like this. And it's really an engineering marvel. And, the people that are buying it because they're one, professional birders or sports photographers, or two, they're hobbyists that really, have the money and do this all the time. So there's a reason for it. But man, it's the only lens I would need. So I'm really thinking about how can I cut off this left arm?
Yeah.
But it is a really cool lens. I'm so glad that we came out with it. It really does change the format for us because it makes 4/3 again, a little bit more serious for serious photographers that are in that wildlife segment. So very, very cool. It's a game changer for us. So that's the newest one that we have. We've had some new firmware we just introduced. So the EM1X, you get the AI birding focus. So now it will actually, it'll find the bird, and then it'll focus on the head and focus on the eye. So, and it's working really well. I've used it a couple of times. Cool. It does a really nice job. My issue is, to be honest, Jonathan, I shut that stuff off a lot of times. I put that on a custom function. So if I want to play with it, I'll play with it. Or if I want to do like birds in flight, have it on a custom function, I'll do that.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think for me, it's like eye detection, when Sony sort of perfected that, with the A7 III, I believe. It was like, I was in a bar when I saw that the first time at a photo show, and somebody was showing me in the dark, one of my Sony buddies, and I'm like, all right, let's, move your head. And he's going back and forth in the dark, and it's catching his eye. I'm like, that's pretty cool. If I did a wedding, I'd shut it off. I like having control of the camera.
That's
and
fair.
So I think it works great. And I think like when I'm doing a group shot, I'll use that stuff. Funny enough, because I'm getting everybody's faces, I'm metering on them and whatever.
Right.
But I think for me, coming from, again, film into digital and all that, I think it's all the boxes bother me. If that makes sense. Too much going on. It's like I'm trying to shoot a picture. Maybe it's because I just want to see, I want to witness what I'm shooting, because we're like voyeurs, right? As photographers, we're looking into another world in a way, right? So, and we're kind of removed from that world, so I like to see it. And I think that kind of stuff, though it works amazing, for me as a photographer, I like to shut it off and just, see what I'm doing. My daughter, again, last year at the state meet in Austin, Texas, first time I've seen her compete in years. So I went down there and I photographed it, knowing I hadn't seen her in a while. I'd photograph it, and it was a rough meet for her, and she didn't hit her height, and it just rained. It was just a off meet, and it was very emotional for her. And I caught this whole thing. I caught her going through the emotions and everything, and it didn't affect me till later, because here again, I'm sort of like watching it as a viewer, through this viewfinder and trying to get the emotion. And then later on, I'm looking at it. So it's interesting.
Yeah. I think that is really interesting.
It's weird as a father, but I was kind of removing myself as a photographer. So
right. I mean, I think that is an interesting perspective on it, because you really do.
Yeah.
You don't really realize it in the space, but like taking photos, you are really removed from whatever situation you're in, regardless of how kind of inclusive you try to be. Because you are focused on what are my settings, what are this, like making sure you're capturing that photo. That I'd agree. A lot of times stuff doesn't. A lot of times just have a friend. Lucy is at the shop now. What was I saying? Yeah, a lot of times we are removed, and emotional stuff like that doesn't hit you until like you load all the photos onto the computer and you start editing. You're like, whoa. Like
It also goes into like when the guys that shoot models, that shoot, and there's always that whole, how do I say this without being like, sometimes there's shooters that aren't professional. You know what I mean? And I think that's hopefully gotten cleaned up now. But, with cameras becoming cheaper over the years and stuff, there's a lot of people that feel like, oh, I can just say I'm a photographer and hire a model. And, because they're all.
Yeah.
And I think that's another, category where, there's a difference between a pro that removes themselves from that. You're looking at a final image, a piece, a product that you're creating, right? And you're looking at, whether it's you're going for beauty or whether you're going for this certain look, and I think that's what separates a pro photographer or a professional person, from somebody who's just kind of a fly by night, and so that unfortunately that element is there, in that type of photography, but there's also the pros, and you could tell those guys just like that. And so, but I think that goes with all photography. I think that we remove ourselves from our subject, and that's what makes us really focus.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. Well, I think so, because I'd agree that it seems like a lot of times, like when I'm taking a photo, I'm thinking of what I want it to look like I want the final product to be. Just like when you're painting, a lot of times you're drawing, like we envision what we want the final product to be. So I think it is, and like you're saying, it's not everyone separates themselves as easy, but that separation, I think, comes from a lot of times people who are seeing the photos you're taking as like, this is the final product, this is what I want to see, because you're taking your basic exposure and then you're going for mainly the composition, because you can always, a lot of the exposure you can change the colors. Like if we're like that jewelry shot, it was not going to look like what it looked like raw. It was going to look like the warm and the moody tones and the clarity bump up and all of that. And that's what I envisioned when I shot it. And I think that helps. I think that does help separate, is looking at, as you're taking the photo, thinking about what it's going to look like in the future. And normally,
I agree with that.
I feel like it doesn't always catch up to you until you see it finished in Lightroom or whatever you edit in, and then
and it brings up a good point, because you envision, when you screw up too, and when there's something not working, and then you kind of go back in your mind, how do I fix this, like really quick. And I think that also is when somebody knows they're ready, to shoot. Like if you're going to shoot for money, or if you're going to, when you know your camera enough that it's an extension of you, and you know what you're looking for, so that when you're working with a client or doing something for a client, if that's the route you're going, if you're going to make money on it, you kind of know what you're going for, and you know how to correct it, what it's going to look like or what it's not, or how to make it look how you need it for editing after, and that's, I think, and that's when you're ready, sort of, right? Because you kind of know how to work the tool, and
I agree with that. And that speaks to like the last video we did with Kenny, where we spoke a lot about photography as a career and as a profession and what that looks like. And when a lot of the questions were, okay, when do you know? Some of the questions were like, how much do you charge? Which that's a whole other subject. But when do you know you're ready? When do you know you're ready to charge? And I completely agree with you. I think that easy rule of thumb is when I take a photo, I look at it, it's not right, and I can instinctively fix it without having to be puzzled of what should I be doing to make this right. Or you can be taking the photo and just making those changes on the fly because you've assumed that it's already wrong without having to, take it down and look at it. And I think, when it's an extension of you and it's used as a really efficient tool, I think that's when you're ready to then do it as something more than just a hobby.
Again, it goes back to the cameras being so good now that it's easy to jump the gun and say, well, I can definitely do that because the camera can do it, but you have to do it, and you have to have the confidence in yourself, because when you go into a shoot, hey, we're always nervous, no matter if we're pro or not. There's always, you want to make it the best you can. It's your business. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, what do we got, Brad? I'm getting started slowly doing nice. You've been doing it a while, so And that's another thing too, is to get into it, right, Brad? And just kind of, work your way into it and get comfortable, because you also have to get used to working with different sessions and doing different things. So yeah, cool. That went off on a little bit different of a tangent.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of a different tangent, but I
From
think
eye detection to the business of photography.
yeah. I mean, hey, I think that's totally fine, because we don't have a ton of questions anyway. So
Yeah, so the agenda kind of floats you guys when you don't have questions.
yeah, exactly. I think it would be
Professional
nice.
critiquing, cool.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. I wonder if we could figure out some way to
have like a box where people can drop off photos and we can go and critique them. It's funny, Jason, because critiquing is such a opinionated.
It really is.
It really depends on like what I like or what you like or what.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yet in school, that's all you do. That's all we did was critique each other and get critiqued. My picture stunk, and I knew it because everybody was on me, And now if you critique somebody on, I don't know, Facebook or social media, you're done. Like you're unfriended. Like they don't want to. They want to like or love, and you're gone. They don't want anything else. So it's a shame, because that's how you get better. When people tell you, "Look, your picture looks fine, but maybe I might have done this, or maybe next time try looking for this." Right. That's a critique. That's just to help you grow. And you may not even use that advice, but the next time you shoot that subject, you're going to think about it. And that's what's so great about it. It puts a little seed up there and helps you grow. So,
because I think the thing to keep in mind is photography is art. So what I might like in a photo, Mike might not like in a photo, and vice versa. And we might critique differently. But I think there is a benefit regardless of having
me too. Me too, Jason.
Having people be able to give you any kind of critiques when you're starting out, or even when you've been doing it for years and years. I think it's always good to get.
And I haven't done it in like he said, about 20, 25 years. So
yeah.
I'm rusty with critiquing. It'd be fun.
I mean, Jason, you asked where to go. I'd say just send the camera shop a message, and I'll take a look at it tomorrow. I can send your stuff over to Mike as well, and we can both give our opinions. I think to start, I do really like the idea of figuring out a way to do this kind of professional critiquing thing.
Maybe the next one of our next shows, we could do something where we have people send stuff to a box, and then we can kind of review it before the show and then come on and talk about it.
I really like that idea, especially and people were getting that a lot with our photo challenges that we did this summer, because we were able to share our critiques of, hey, I like this photo. If I were taking it, blah, 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 I might change this or whatever. So maybe we can look at doing some photo challenges as well. But yeah, to start, just for you, I'd say send me a message. Anyone else watching, you can send me a message. I'm more than happy to give our opinions. And yeah, I'll look into something and see if there's something we can do. Yeah, if there's interest for more, and if there's enough interest, we can figure out something that we can set up with the shop to be able to offer that service. But yeah, other than that, kind of it's taken us almost right to an hour, so we're kind of perfect timing. If we don't have wait a quick second, if there's any other last minute questions.
That was fun, Jonathan. Thank you. That was good too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
It was different. It was cool to go over some of that stuff. I don't think I've ever told anybody sort of how I got into photography. It's just this long, boring story.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I really wanted to do with kind of this rebooted series with this new thing that's starting at the camera shop, and then that I'll hopefully be doing then from my dorm room. So this background will eventually not look like the shop. It'll look like a little dorm room, but
like my hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
We can go through. We can have a whole show on what companies Mike worked for in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Where's Mike been the last 20 years?
No, I mean, I personally really like hearing people's stories, how they got started, where they are now. Take a second. Jason,
the 100 to 400 is awesome, and I will tell you that it's a pretty solid lens because I dropped mine the other day. I'm going to shoot it this week and make sure that it's good, but it seems good. I just broke the lens shade.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, I remember when that's a really solid lens. I remember taking a look at it
it
this
is.
summer when we did a couple videos on that, and then the the EM 10-4 that came out. And yeah, those are really solid. Yeah, ouch.
Oh, it was on a tripod. I knew better. I moved my office chair. I hit the tripod, and I heard a boom on my hardwood floor. EM 13, 100 to 400. It looks
Ooh.
good though. Just the lens shape.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I've done worse. I've done worse, and they all work.
yeah,
Like
good,
300
good,
millimeter.
good.
Any rate,
Yeah, Brad's asking about doing a Zoom meeting sometime. I think that could be a good
like,
idea.
yeah, is that like a drinking meeting, Brad, or are we is that is that cocktails with Zoom?
Cocktails, cocktails with the camera shop, or talking cameras, or no? Yeah, I think we could look into that as well. I think that could be cool to then,
Sure.
see people face to face, hear from that. With right now not being able to do a lot of in-person stuff.
Yeah.
We did recently come out with we're being able to do our first in-person class in a while.
Nice.
And that's basically going to be the camera 101. So that's going to be the basics into a camera. It's super limited to like 8 people, just so we can adhere to the COVID guidelines. But so I think that'll hopefully be a good start if that goes well, to then being able to do more, to be able to do hopefully some meetups and stuff like that this summer. I'd really like to do.
Yep.
Yeah, Brad share our stories. I think that could be a really cool thing.
That'd be pretty cool, Brad. Yeah.
To do some kind of meetup to share stories, have coffee, and then maybe go out and take photos or something. So yeah, I think that's a great idea, and we can look into those as well. Yeah. Is that class full? The class is not full. We still have a few spots. I think last time I checked, I think there's still 6 out of 8 spots open. But it's starting to fill up. I think we got both those spots in today. So I'd recommend signing up for it soon. And that you
I'm
can
really
find,
hoping that by summer, like you said, by summer we can
I'm really
start
hoping we can do more. And the class you can find on Facebook. It's also on our Eventbrite, which you can both access. You can access our Eventbrite the quickest way, probably on our website. If you just scroll down a little bit, actually, I think it's the pinned post on Facebook right now. So you should be able to find it super easy, but message us if you're having troubles with it. But yeah, other than that, really enjoyed talking with you, Mike. Really liked having you on.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry I'm in a hotel room, you guys, and the video sort of, but it's been a 10-hour drive today. So
yeah. I
right.
think it works. I think it's just fine. We'll let you get going and hopefully get some sleep for
Oh, I'm fine.
because you have another drive tomorrow,
I
right?
slept on the way.
Yeah.
The cars can go like 10 seconds before you have to grab the steering wheel. I mean, I'm good.
There you go. Just 10-second power nap every hour, and
No, but I'm looking forward to doing more with you guys like this. I hope this thing starts to get in control now, and we can start rocking a little bit. So yeah. But thanks, you guys. Thanks for joining, and it was fun. And thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, good to talk to you, and thank you everyone for watching. Again, look out for more of these. Hopefully, we'll be able to do a few more for the spring, and then we'll definitely be doing a lot more over the summer. It was nice to be a part of this feed. To see you, Mike. Have a great, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah,
Brad.
have a great holiday. Brad, have a good holiday. Everybody, have a great holiday. Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, keep a look for it. And thanks again, Mike. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a